told that we couldn't use Ayrtier Square, and then we got here to the Bandratunda and they told us that that was booked as well, but we booked it. So here we are out in the sunshine, getting a bit sunburnt, but isn't it wonderful that the weather turned it on for us today? Now, we've got to ask the question repeatedly, why is this government not listening? And then if you think about it, why wasn't the government listening before? And before, and before, and before? When we all walked up Queen Street to say a GE-free New Zealand, did the government listen? No! We didn't get a moratorium on GE, we're still having to work at it.
We've got a moratorium.
Thank you, Vinny, don't put me off. So, not only is it a GE issue, it's a GE issue and a mining issue, and the TPPA issue, and so many different things where the people are not listened to and business is listened to. So that's why on our banner at the front we said people power, not corporate control. Because what it is essentially, where you have business controlling government, that's essentially fascism. Do we want to live in a fascist society? No! Well, then we've all got to do something about it. Yeah. We can't leave it to someone else. I'm just a parent and a grandma. And I felt I have to do something because I can see that this country is nothing like it was when my parents brought me here when I was 16 in the 60s. So I'm looking at the country now and thinking, you know, we've got poverty that we never had then. We've got a whole lot of things going rapidly down the Googler. Now, as well as connecting the dots, we need to look at neoliberalism. Because that's an American concept that's, well, not an American concept, but it's a concept that's crept in here increasingly. And that is another issue that we need to say, no, we've got to look at better ways of governing. So I think we need a new system. I don't think that this system works. And it's very appropriate that we are here at the university, because the university is where new systems should be coming out from. The political studies department and their students should be looking at better ways for our government to operate. And then the political parties can take this up and we can recreate something different. We've only got 4.5 million people here. We can do something in New Zealand. And if it works here, the rest of the world will catch on. So we can be the mosquito that buzzes around just a little, better to say we can be the mouse that roared. New Zealand can be the mouse that roars. Now, Dunedin is going to do marches like this on, I think on the first Sunday of every month from now on. They've got so enthusiastic. So let's see what we can create in Auckland. I'm not promising to do one next month, but there's not just me, there's all of you. And all of us together can really do something. Now, one of the most insidious things that is about to happen in New Zealand is if the government signs up to the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, the TPPA. And Dr. Jane Kelsey from the university here has led the charge on this. She's unfortunately not able to be here because she's on a plane coming back from Brunei, having been at the negotiations. However, we're lucky to have lawyer Edward Miller, who is here, who can tell you about the TPPA and why we must really get out there and campaign to oppose it. So, Edward, are you handy? Right here. Right there. Thank you, everyone.
G'day everybody, fantastic to see you all here. Give yourselves a big, big round of applause for coming out against corporate power. My name's Edward Miller, I'm a trade unionist and lawyer, and as soon as I got given this microphone I forgot exactly everything I was going to say, but I'll give it a go anyway. I'm from a group called It's Our Future, Kiwis concerned about the TPPA. And the TPPA is something that we should all be very, very concerned about. It's a free trade and investment agreement that our government is negotiating in secret with 11 other countries. That's Canada, the United States, Mexico, Chile, Peru, New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Japan. The funny thing is, if you have a look through all of these countries, you'll notice that a lot of them already have free trade agreements with each other. Why do you sign an agreement that you already have an agreement with a country that you already have a free trade agreement with? The reason is because this agreement has very little to do with trade and investment at all. It's to do with the expansion of corporate power. It's nothing to do with trade, or very, very little to do with trade. I mentioned before that this was a secret agreement. The reason this agreement is being negotiated in secret, or the reason they justify negotiating in secret, the US Trade Representative probably had the best quote on this. He said, we can't have transparency in this agreement because it would be far too much of a risk for people to know what was going on in this agreement. This translates to me with the equivalent of saying, if people knew what were going on, they would be very, very angry. We need to be very, very angry about this. We know a little bit about what's in this agreement because there's been a few leaks of data that have come through. And the real scary part, the real sort of mummy-daddy button of this agreement is this thing called ISDS, Investor State Dispute Settlement Tribunals. What this means is that if a corporation is invested in a country and this country decides to pass legislation in favor of things like public health, environmental legislation, labor law, mining legislation, financial stability legislation, if this gets in the way of that investor's corporate profitability motives, they're taken to international court. Our country can be taken to international court by corporations if we sign up to this, to challenge them for the money that they would otherwise be making if we didn't pass these laws, which we need to maintain a healthy society with decent wages and a healthy environment. There's other reasons why this is absolute rubbish. This is system of investor-state dispute settlement. For example, those people who act as lawyers in these cases one week will be acting in judges in slightly different cases in the next week. How are we ever going to get consistent law-abiding decisions that come out of these tribunals if the people that are deciding on them are acting for corporations? It makes no sense. It's stupid. There's a lot of reasons to be angry about this agreement, and I could go on for a very long time, but I think we can sum it up pretty simply with a few words. No way TPPA! No way TPPA! If you don't want to have JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs setting our financial regulation in this country, we need to say no way TPPA! No way TPPA! If you don't want to have Anglo-American and Rio Tinto setting our mining legislation in this country, we need to say no way TPPA! No way TPPA! If you don't want to have Syngenta and Monsanto setting our GMO legislation in this country, we need to say no way TPPA! No way TPPA! It's clear that corporate power has a corrosive effect on our democracy, and we need to stand up against this as much as possible. As Lisa mentioned before, Jane Kelsey is just coming back from Brunei. Brunei is the 19th round of negotiations of this agreement, and it's the final public round, if you can call them public rounds. At this point, everything is going underground, and the negotiations are being even more closed door than closed door. They're probably happening in the Hadron Collider or something, you know, you can't even get close to them. In Malaysia, just recently, at the previous round of negotiations, the demonstrators that went out and tried to indicate to governments that they were unhappy were arrested by the Malaysian government and put into drug testing straight away. This is ridiculous. We need to say no way TPPA. We need to organize no way TPPA. No way TPPA! We need to organize now as many people as you can, inform them about this agreement. Go to our website, etsourfuture.org.nz. There's heaps of resources there. We're updating it as much as possible. And keep an eye on that because we're going to have some big public actions coming up in the future. Thank you all very much for listening.
Thank you. Can you take the edges off? No. This flag is from the Iceland Revolution. It was given to me by, I'm not talking for long, it was given to me by Hodor Torfason from Iceland, who started the Iceland Revolution by himself, standing on the side of the street and asking people. And then, of course, they used the pots and pans. So you see on the banner the pots and pans or the cutlery that they banged together. So I brought that on a flag on the march with us today. Now, yes, so this grew out of the Iceland Revolution, and so we had a meeting, and out of that we decided that not just today is there action required, there's action required on other days. And I'm just going to hand you over to Alan, who will tell you about a petition that you can all sign, and you can also take some away with you so that you can get other people to sign them. You can get them on the website under the People's Pledge, under our website, which is www.kiwisconnect.org.nz. So, Alan, are you here?
I'm right here, Lisa.
It was Alan's initiative, which is really great.
Sure, definitely. Hello, my name's Alan Bainbridge, and there are a few people walking around with clipboards like this that says the People's Pledge, and I'm just going to very quickly read what it says. It says, we the undersigned will not vote for or support any party or politician who does not endorse our basic principles of sustainability, social justice and democracy, specifically a ban on fracking, deep-sea drilling and seabed mining, public ownership of strategic assets, GE-free in field and food, a living wage for all, access to free public education, including tertiary, dismantling all legislation that cedes sovereignty to multinational corporations, including the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, ensuring that all legislation is compatible with localizing community, food sovereignty, animal rights and environmental best practice, a fair and equitable banking and monetary system to build transparency, democratic principles and genuine consultation into all aspects of government. And the reason this exists is the very reason you're all here, because there are lots and lots and lots of issues, and we just need to start saying no to the whole damn lot of them. Now, there are people out there right now with some of these things looking for signatures. There's someone over there in an orange jacket. Any more? Hands up?
What do you mean? That's Elaine. You can't call your wife someone.
And I'm going to come out there and wander around. So please come and sign it. And if you can't do it now, get one off the website and get others to sign it.
Okay, now, thank you, Alan. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, we have a young lad here who has written a 3-minute speech on genetic engineering. And I think that's awesome that we've got the youth out there willing to speak. So we're going to just let him have his speech now before Jon Carapiet speaks, and he is the spokesperson for GE Free New Zealand. So we've got 2 parts to the genetic engineering. So away we go. Come and stand over here and I'll hold the microphone for you.
Just put your little microphone on.
So, Jonty, what's your surname? Just say who you are.
John Finlay Jones.
John Finlay Jones. Where you go? Jonty Finlay Jones. Where you go?
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jonty. Today I'll be talking to you about how food these days is worse than 30 years ago. Because these days we have less nutrients in our soil.
Sorry, just telling. It's all right, we're just turning up the speaker.
Oh, you just got to hold it.
Well, he's got to be able to read it too. Where you go?
Less nutrients in our worse than 30 years ago. Because these days we have less nutrients in our soil, more pollution in our oceans, our supermarkets are full of packaged and processed foods, and now GMOs are entering the food chain. It wasn't so long ago that all food was organic. These days you have to pay extra for that. To give you a bit of background information, one day around 100 years ago, a scientist burnt some plant waste. He found there were 3 minerals left over, nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, but he made a bit of a mistake. He said those 3 minerals were the only minerals we need to grow crops. Since then, modern agriculture has focused on mass producing food using these 3 minerals, and farmers also using many chemicals. Because of this, there isn't as much nutrients in the soils, and that means our food isn't nutritious, as well as having chemicals in it. Not saying that your vegetable garden's soil's lethal. 30 years ago, we had a lot more fish and seafood in our oceans, lakes and rivers. Today we have to be careful of where our seafood comes from, because it may contain mercury or even radiation from Fukushima. Our oceans are becoming overfished and highly acidic, and this cannot be good for us. Our supermarkets are full of packaged food. It is highly processed with sugar, salt and all sorts of nasties in it. I did a little experiment at home. I got the packaged food out of the pantry and put the food with the sugar and salt. So I put the food into different sides. So I put like the sugar on one side and the salt on the other. I found out that most of our food has sugar in it than salt. Maybe you could try this. 30 years ago, people ate food that did not have things like GMOs, genetically modified organisms, or GE, genetic engineering. Back then, GE was just starting. GE is when a scientist mucks around with a vegetable's DNA and adds other plants together so they can create something new, which can affect the plant, the environment, and us. GMOs are different and more terrible. GMOs are when a scientist gets a sample of two animals' DNA and inject it into the plant to make it stronger, and so weeds can't take over. Even Pope Benedict III was against GMOs and added them to the new list of 7 deadly sins.
Absolutely true.
Does anyone know the corporation Monsanto? Well, Monsanto make the most amount of chemicals on the planet, and they want to control our food supply. It's funny because in Monsanto's own office cafes, they don't have GMOs. We are quite lucky here in New Zealand that GMOs are not allowed, but quite large corporations like Monsanto want to have them here. Did you know that in America, 4 out of 5 packaged foods have GMOs in them? The trouble is that GMOs haven't been tested properly, so we don't know the side effects. The conclusion? The evidence is there. 30 years ago, people had less allergies than today, and we didn't have as many diseases. Our soils have less nutrients, and our oceans are becoming more and more polluted. Our supermarkets are full of processed food, and GMOs have entered the food chain, but there is hope. 30 years ago, we didn't know as much about food as we do today. We are now discovering what good nutrition can do for us, as well as finding new superfoods. We can also make wise choices in the food we buy and where we buy it from. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you have learned about how food these days was worse than 30 years ago.
Oh, thank you, Jonty. And thank you so much, Jonty. That's really awesome. And isn't it great to have one of our younger people standing up? And you see how he made a connection between the radiation coming from Fukushima. Yes. And he mentioned the sugar, that sugar's in everything, so that's affecting our health. So it doesn't pass the eyes of young people like this. How old are you, Jonty?
11.
11-year-old. If it doesn't pass the eyes of an 11-year-old, how come it passes the eyes of our politicians?
That's right. Because they're not quite as bright as an 11-year-old.
No. Thank you so much, Jonty. Christine, we have Christine Rose. Now, Christine Rose is the most fantastic candidate for Auckland Council. Vote for Christine Rose. Here we go. A round of applause.
Thank you. Kia ora tātou. Thanks for being here today to stand up for the things that matter to New Zealand and the world. I'm an environmental and social activist, a citizen, a concerned New Zealander, and a candidate for the Waitakere Ward in the Auckland Council local government elections. Never before have the values we hold dear as Kiwis been under such resounding threat by a government that's barely legitimate with the finest of majorities, the flimsiest of majorities. Our equal society, our environmental qualities, our rights of citizens, our proud history and our hope are being dismantled through hasty laws passed under urgency, often without debate in the dead of night. The very foundations of what it takes to be a proud New Zealander are being undermined. Workers' rights are being stripped and erased to the bottom of the lowest paid ranks among the world's working poor. The 90-day sack at will law, youth wages, changes to the Employment Relations Act, all compound job insecurity, low pay, precarious work and high unemployment, especially among those most vulnerable, the young, the elderly, the lower skilled, those with kids to feed. The government is stripping away councils' rights to develop rules to protect and defend against threats and risks from GMOs. The government is stripping away councils' rights to develop rules to protect its trees and urban forests. The government is stripping away our rights to sovereignty in domestic and international affairs in the TPPA. Remember ECAN, Environment Canterbury, a sound and democratic organisation trying to manage demands for water? Abolished, to become a puppet of irrigation interests. Remember the Auckland Regional and other local councils rolled into one. The Auckland Council with its 10,000 staff, its pay inequalities, service and transparency problems, the unitary plan. How's that working for you? The once world-leading Resource Management Act is steadily morphing into an Economic Development Act instead of one that enshrines environmental protection. Gone by lunchtime are protections for outstanding natural landscapes, amenity values, ecosystems, our environment. We're waiting for the government's urgent decision on protecting the world's smallest, rarest and loveliest of all marine dolphins, Maui's dolphins, from fishing and seismic testing. Meanwhile, seabed mining and deep-sea oil permits are fast-tracked for overseas bidders, where it becomes illegal to protest or even oppose these most risky of exploitative practices. But it doesn't stop there. Our forests and conservation lands face mining too. We're one of the world's worst offenders of countries carrying out the abhorrent practice of shark finning. The government proposes restrictions on recreational snapper catch limits while leaving gross, unsustainable commercial catches and wasters of fish untouched. Animals are treated like objects in factory farms and labs. 330,000 cats, dogs, rats, mice, rabbits, even sheep, pigs, horses and cows are used in experiments in New Zealand every year. Millions of animals never get to see the sun, to flap their wings or to bathe or scratch in the dust for our meals devoured in minutes by a voracious consumer culture. Animals will die to support legal highs while hypocritical drug laws criminalise others. Next page. The absence of food and product labelling means it's hard to know what it is we're buying and consume. Palm oil products saturate our daily lives, signalling an imminent end to the noble old man of the forest, the orangutan, and his entire habitat. As the internet gives us an anarchic freedom and access to information and power, the state seeks to constrain, the market seeks to manipulate. The GCSB is the tip of the iceberg when metadata is captured by monopolistic big business and used to target and manufacture consumer wants, desires and needs. Our power companies are being sold to a minority of wealthy shareholders while our power prices go up. Tax cuts for the rich benefit the privileged few, and the gap between the rich and the poor grows in our country, God's own, more than in any other country than in any other time. Our government fails to stand on principle against the illegitimate potential invasion of the sovereign, even if an unjust Syrian state. Is this our country? Is this our future? We here say no. Where we see injustice, we must act against it. Where we see inequality, we must strive for fairness. Where we see oppression, we must fight for freedom. Where we see environmental threats, we must seek to remedy and repair. History will judge this time in New Zealand as a bleak, destructive and irresponsible erosion of all that we hold dear. This time will otherwise redefine what it is to be a New Zealander, what it is that New Zealand means to us Kiwis and to the people of the world. We cannot surrender our power, but must allow it to take new forms, new expressions and develop new freedoms to act. While our personal, environmental and sovereign rights are under attack, we say, and we said, stand up, fight back. Fight back as consumers. In every spending choice we make, we are voting for the world we want to see. In a free market, we have to be the conscience of the state. Exercise the choice as anti-consumers, as conscious consumers, as conscientious consumers. Fight back as citizens. Support those community networks and internet society. Spread the word. Mobilise. Make submissions, but don't submit to the council and the government's plans. Play their game, but for yourself, but also for the powerless, the poor and inarticulate, those struggling to feed their families and pay the bills. Fight back for the voiceless, the animals in cages and pens. Fight back for the careless and apathetic. The need for us to exercise the soul of the citizen has never been greater, but we are powerful, we are strong. We may not be the 1%, but we are at least the willing and aware percent. Only if we fail to act can we be wrong. There is hope, but it rests with us. Next page. And when it comes to vote, remember to vote. Exercise your vote in local government elections that are coming up, and vote next year. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. It only takes a spark to start a prairie fire. Keep that fire burning, spread the word, spread the fire, change the world. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Yes, we do. I'm standing for Eden Albert. Just as an aside. Right. Jon Carapiet is going to speak on GE Free. He's the spokesperson for GE Free New Zealand. So welcome, Jon.
Oh, kia ora, everyone. We've had some good speeches about genetic engineering already just now. I won't keep you very long, but first of all, thanks to Lisa for organising this and all the other people who've helped her organise this. Thanks to you for being here. And I really hope that, because we've made the connection, or started to make the connection, that maybe the government may start to make the connection between what they're supposed to do and what they're doing, and change direction. Because they must wake up with the experience of Fonterra recently to start to understand, why do people want to come to Aotearoa, New Zealand on a holiday? Why do people want to buy our food around the world? And it's not because we have genetic engineered crops being brought in or planted or given to animals as animal feed. It's not because we're using toxic chemicals in our farming. It's not because we lack democracy and freedom in this country. It's for the opposite of those reasons. And they've got to learn now and start to make those connections that we are uniquely placed in the world to deliver clean, green, healthy, natural, ethically produced food. And genetic engineering of animals or plants has no place in that. We've heard a little bit already about some of the things I was going to mention. I'll just quickly go through some highlights around the world. Again, things that are happening that if the government has got neurons to connect, it will see that it is in the national interest to keep GE out of our food and environment and to resist the TPPA forcing it in. In the UK, in Europe, the whole debate about safety of GE food has reached a new level. About less than a year ago, a scientist called Seralini from France did the first long-term animal testing of GM food. Now, I know that, of course, the whole issue of animal testing is one that we are all concerned about. But the fact that they never actually tested the food that they're given to human beings in America and elsewhere is a bit of an eye-opener. And the fact that the first long-term trials of that food revealed some really significant problems. And now the fact that the European safety authorities have adopted the very protocols that Seralini basically used to test the safety of food, that our government and the Australian government does no testing whatsoever. In fact, our government has just signed off crops that can be sprayed with Roundup and 2,4-D and other chemicals into our food chain without, they're actually not even being grown yet as far as I know, and certainly the Americans haven't approved them. And yet our government is rubber stamping them with no testing whatsoever. In India, the Supreme Court appointed an expert panel over a year ago, and they made a report last year, and they were sent away because the report said a 10-year moratorium on GE in India because of various reasons: lack of infrastructure, lack of safety testing, lack of protection for farmers, many thousands of whom have killed themselves because of debt to similar companies like Monsanto over the years, and, interestingly enough, a conflict of interest, which is what we have here, incidentally. Their report just came back, the confirmed report. Instead of a 10-year moratorium on GE in India, this expert panel has called for an indefinite moratorium on GE in India because of the reasons I've just mentioned. And there's a good reason why New Zealand can learn from India on that. We've got conflicts of interest at the highest level of government, and we mustn't allow that to damage our brand. We've already heard from Christine that Auckland Council has been really forced to have some mention of GMOs in the unitary plan, and behind that has been a decade of work by other councils to protect our region in Northland from GMO damage. And you wouldn't believe the shenanigans behind the scenes. Officers basically calling the shots, misleading councillors, telling them what they can and can't do, working to an agenda where it comes from, it's not clear, but it's not the agenda of New Zealand, it's not the agenda of Aucklanders, and it's not even the agenda of good science. Because science itself has been hijacked by business, and that is the big problem. So I'll just finish now by just making sure that if the government has got neurons to connect in their own brains, that they realise that the future is GM-free. And by the way, if you're worried about feeding the poor people around the world, I'd really encourage you to listen to the United Nations. They've had expert scientists report on how we are going to feed the world, and Monsanto isn't going to help. GM monocrops are not going to help. It's actually mixed farming. And there's a report, it's very long, the title of it, I think it's called the International Assessment of Agricultural Science and Technology for Development. And if you look that up, the United Nations report, you'll really see what the future needs to be like. So we look for real solutions, not hype. We're looking for, the best example of that, today, we know how to reduce methane emissions from all those cows. We know how to maintain good land control and improve production. And we know that because the research has been done on mixed forage. Now, at the same time as mixed forage has been proven to address those issues, people with their snouts in the trough are looking for funding to develop GM ryegrass that will be a magic bullet to solve our problems. There is no magic bullet. In fact, that would be a magic bullet to this country's head. It is going to devastate our exports if they push on with that direction. Why are they ignoring the actual solutions that have been identified? Well, it's mainly because there's no intellectual property that they can own. Now, that is a real problem for New Zealand because we've got to be open source, ethical, sustainable, and look into the future. And I ask you to continue to support a GM-free future for Aotearoa New Zealand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jon. Jon works absolutely tirelessly, puts a whole lot of his own money into the campaign. But you could join GE Free New Zealand if you go to www.gefreenewzealand.co.nz? gefree.org.nz, and of course the more members we have, the least amount of money people have to put in individually, so that would always help. Now, our next speaker is from the Green Party. We all know that we need a change of government. I'm not going to go particularly on to which party or to vote for and which party not to, but I'm very glad that we have a Green Party person here. Vernon Tarver is going to talk to you now. We've got about 15 more minutes of speeches, and then individual people can come up and speak if they'd like to as well. So don't run off yet, because we've got some really awesome speakers. So Vernon, thank you.
I'm all mic'd up, thank you. Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much for that generous introduction, Lisa. And I'd just like to acknowledge and thank Lisa for organising not just this action, but actions up and down the country. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's fantastic to see so many people gathered here today. I'd really like to tautoko what the speakers before me have talked about. There's such a long list of things to be concerned about. We've heard about the TPPA, we've heard about GMOs, and a general, not just disregard for, but open contempt for democracy. Anybody who watches Question Time, anybody who watches the way our Prime Minister and senior ministers of the current government treat any demand or call for accountability on their part will have been as appalled as I am, I'm sure, to see just their open contempt at being questioned in any way. When they're pushing through comprehensive reforms of our laws with razor-thin majorities, the GCSB legislation passing by what, 1-2 votes, the EEZ legislation. That's one particular thing I'd like to talk about, is offshore drilling. That's one of the things, one of the long laundry list of concerns that we have that hasn't been talked about so much today. So that's something I'll focus on. So what we're seeing is a reckless, absolutely reckless exploitation, or opening for exploitation, of New Zealand's offshore oil fields. Now these are areas that have been considered too risky, too expensive, and too dangerous to exploit before. But now, as we're running so short of oil and people are so desperate for this resource, what we're seeing now is international corporations willing to exploit areas that they would have just a few short years ago considered too risky and too dangerous to do so. And this government has welcomed them with open arms. What we've seen is an approach not to protecting our environment, not to actually protecting our shores from being awash with oil, as we've seen can so easily happen, with the very recent example of just the Deepwater Horizon disaster as just one example. And let's look at that. That's something that happened in about 1.3 kilometres depth underwater, on the doorstep of the richest country in the world, and it took 92 days for them to even be able to stop that. Now what we're going to see, that was with virtually limitless resource. Thousands of planes, tens of thousands of boats, thousands of people, limitless money being poured into that, and it took them the best part of 3 months to even be able to stop that leak. Now if this were to happen in New Zealand, at twice the depth, when there are 14 boats that are dedicated to cleaning up oil spills and that are actually equipped only for inshore oil spills, that's just cleaning stuff up that boats happen to have spilt around the ports of New Zealand, there is no hope that we would be able to stop a leak in any reasonable time. In fact, there's a distinct possibility, if this were to happen off the coast of New Zealand, that we would have an oil leak bellowing oil onto our shores that we would never be able to stop. That is a conceivable thing. That is something that is distinctly possible. And we've seen a government that has not protected our interests and tried to save us from this happening, but has actually welcomed this kind of exploitation with open arms, who have very deliberately passed the environmental exclusive economic zone legislation, which actually removes all of the protections of the Resource Management Act, which previously exist, and have actually made it extremely easy and introduced a streamlined and sped up and procedure for drilling offshore, if it's outside of the economic, or in the economic exclusion zone just offshore, where the deep sea oil drilling is going to happen, that you get fast track applications that can be put through very quickly. And for the enormous environmental risk that we're taking on, we're seeing royalties being charged of between 4 to 5%. So an absolute pittance of that money is actually going to come to New Zealand. And the idea that it will create jobs is an absolute myth. Now, if we're expected to believe that global oil exploitation companies are going to take unskilled workers from the coastal areas of New Zealand and spend years and a fortune training them up, then we've got another thing coming. What they're going to do, of course, is draw on the international group of contractors who fly from place to place doing this work. So what we'll see is some high-priced oil rig workers coming in, probably from Australia, who'll be helicoptered into the rig and then will land and fly straight back out. So we're not going to see any sort of economic benefit in these places. We're taking on enormous risk, incalculable risk for very, very little return. And we're certainly not going to see cheaper fuel at the bowsers either, because of our very limited refining capacity in New Zealand. That oil is not going to come to New Zealand to be refined and get us cheaper petrol. It's just going to be sold back to us at the same retail and increasing prices. Okay, so one more thing that I would just like to talk to you about is that we've talked about a lot of global concerns and a lot of national concerns, the real big scale stuff. But most of what we can do about that, it can be disempowering. It can be just a bit spooky when you think about these things on this global scale. But the scale we can do something on is the local level. Now, our local government elections, the last election, when it was Len Brown versus John Banks, had about a 50% turnout. 50%, that's half of the people who are eligible to vote voted. And that, believe it or not, was a record turnout. We're on course now to a lower turnout. That's likely. What we normally get in local government elections is things in the later 30s or early 40s%. And this just isn't good enough. What this has meant is that there are people who consistently vote. That's the wealthier people in the eastern suburbs consistently vote. They always vote. The way we can make a difference, the way we can have the kind of candidates who are focused on sustainability, on social justice, on economic concerns, the sort of thing that Christine Rose has been talking about. The way to get those people in is to mobilise yourselves and mobilise the people you know to make sure your voice is heard in local government elections. I'm standing as a candidate for the Waitemata local board, that's in this city area, for City Vision, which is a Labour, Green and Community Independence coalition. So wherever you are, inform yourself, whichever part of Auckland you're in. Find out which of your tickets are Labour or Green or Community Independent or whatever ideological stripe it is. That doesn't matter. I'm not necessarily here to tell you to vote for the Green Party or any other party, although that's certainly a great idea. What's more important is that you get involved, is that you vote for someone and you encourage the people you know to vote for someone. Because if we don't participate, if we don't make that difference at the local level, which is the only level we can really make a difference, then we're going to lose the global fight. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, yeah.
And we'll be having shortly our mayoral candidate to speak, so that'll be really great. But just now, talking about the global situation makes you think about, well, how secure are we here in New Zealand if they have a global war, which they might just be starting? What's the situation for us in New Zealand? So we've got Laurie Ross, who is a long-term nuclear-free New Zealand campaigner. She's been doing it for years, just like John Karapiet, and so she's going to speak to us. I think it's very important what she has to say.
Thank you, Lisa, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very proud and grateful that we can be here together in nuclear-free New Zealand. We the people, as it says in the Charter of the United Nations, we the people must work to end the scourge of war. And this is what we have done. We the people. Some of us have been doing it for 30 years and we're still here. Because it's one thing to win the battle for a nuclear-free zone, but it's another thing to keep holding it in the threats and the doubts that arise for us and would easily sweep it away. But this is a hard-won freedom, and we must maintain it, because you could say out of all the threats to humanity and the planet, there is nothing greater than the threat of a nuclear holocaust. We still have 17,000 nuclear weapons in the world. It would only take 100 or less or more to destroy the whole social, economic, environmental order. Recently at the Oslo conference in Norway in March of this year, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, the Red Cross and the Red Crescent movements presented the facts to the highest level of governments that even a very limited nuclear war that could take place through miscalculation or accident or madness would be millions of people dying instantly from the bombs. Millions more would die slowly from every possible kind of cancer from the radiation. And millions more would die from famine because the soot from the nuclear fires would blot out the sun and nothing would grow. So that's why New Zealand has a platform. We already know how to organize ourselves at the grassroots level and form peace groups in each neighborhood. That's what we did in 1981, 82, 83, 84. And when my father started this nuclear-free zone campaign, and he went around town to town and equipped everyone, armed everyone with the information, with the badges, with the stickers. And that was before we had computers. So you had to mail out the information to people so they would be armed with knowledge. And this is the freedom. And then you have to know what to do. So you have your petitions, but then you've got to go to the local councils. That's what we did. Each of us went to our local councils and asked for them to declare a nuclear-free zone. By 1984, ladies and gentlemen, we had achieved 94 locally declared nuclear-free zones covering 65% of New Zealand. We did it. And then on that basis, when Muldoon called the snap election, it's important we remember our successes. When Muldoon called that snap election, when Marilyn Waring crossed the floor on the nuclear ships issue, when we were all out there marching up and down Queen Street, so often we were so tired, and we're still doing it. But then we were also out on the water with our peace flotillas, peace squadron. Well, what happened is we lobbied all the political candidates, and we made it clear through the media who was brave enough to stand for a nuclear-free New Zealand, and we found, and we voted in the Labour, the Lungy-led Labour government. And he was brave enough to stand on that platform, although he probably didn't really want to, but he did it. He did it. And he won. And then we had the Rainbow Warrior incident. But the important thing is we had to keep campaigning. We couldn't rest on our laurels. So by 1987, we'd achieved 105 locally declared nuclear weapon-free zones, covering 72% of the population, and we enshrined it. We enshrined it in the Nuclear-Free Zone and Disarmament Act of 1987. Now, ever since then, we must carry on with this vigilance, ladies and gentlemen. And now we see that the problem is even bigger. It's even greater, because there's so many other multinational, military, industrial, financial, institutional threats. But I believe, I have faith in the human spirit and in the human intelligence to persevere and to find a way, and especially for New Zealand. I've been outside in the international community over the last few months, and I've been to Geneva, to the United Nations, and I understand that New Zealand has to continue to hold this position for the whole of humanity. And we are doing a good job today by refocusing our minds and our hearts on what it is that needs to be done. And I'll just end with a little song for you. Ti hei mori ora ina iwi o Aotearoa kia kaha kia mana kia mo. People of Aotearoa, make a stand and work together. Unite all our children, make it hopeful for them. Teach them to love one another. Tell them we will recover. Show them, for we are the ones who will fight on to the end. Ti hei mori ora ina iwi o Aotearoa kia kaha kia mana kia mo. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. That was just lovely. Yesterday, Jacqueline Taylor and some other people had a demonstration on the war on Syria. Because this is a really serious issue, and Jacqueline Taylor would just like to speak briefly about that.
Just pressed? Okay. Is it on there?
Stand a little bit further back from the speaker.
Yeah, like that? Okay. Kia ora. First thing, can I say thank you so much to all the lovely dads and all the lovely grandpas that gave up their Father's Day today. Thank you very much. Seriously, big clap to you. My husband's still waiting for his granddad lunch, or well, I gave him a packed lunch. I told him, oh, go on, you can do it. Anyway, listen, just a quick, I can't sing nearly as beautifully as Laurie, so I won't try. I can dance, but I won't do that either. What I can do, though, is stir people up, and I can make them toot their horns. So didn't we do well today with that bit of civil disobedience? Toot those horns, people. Encourage people to step out of their comfort zones and just do it, because that's how we've always done it. It's how it's always worked. So yesterday, I didn't do a protest, actually. I don't really do protests. I do advocacy. All right, it's a different word, because people keep changing all the words these days. They keep going, oh no, you can't do that. We're going to have an intervention. And I'm like, well, if you do an intervention with kind of weapons, that's a war, isn't it? So, you know, you keep changing these words, and I'm a wordsmith, and the thing with words, yeah? Yeah? Sorry, am I yelling at you? The thing with words is we can twist them, and they twist them, and they keep repeating the same things and twisting them until people believe them. So first came the insinuations, and we did nothing, and then came the exclamations, and we did nothing. And then came the growing exhortations about red lines and crossing them, while children of all sides bleed and bled and still do and will on the streets of Syria if we let them. Massacred by both sides, possibly. And now the talk is of intervention. Really? In whose interest is that? I heard, actually I've added to this, because I heard a little White House spokesman said apparently that's in America's national security interests. Well, how does that help the Syrians? It doesn't, does it? So basically, can you please explain in whose interests separation and definition and the recognition of whose side that civilian or that little child is on, to a missile or a drone, a car bomb, an IED, an RDD? The time for our weapons are bigger, better, more destructive than yours. That time's over. It's time for another way. Before the obliteration of all of us is actually the only answer that's left. And that's not right, is it? That's not right, that's not left, that's not politics, that's just wrong. So, thank you for caring enough to come today. Some of you couldn't have come yesterday, not everybody can do every day, I can't. Oh, for caring enough to come today though, if British MPs could actually find their consciences, who would have thought? Consciences? Do our ones have consciences? Perhaps we can find out. So what I would like us to do is to get our MPs to find their consciences when they are asked by Mr. Key, oh, should we support the USA? No. What I would like us to do is ensure ours find their consciences too. And you know how you do that? You do exactly what you did today, people. You keep it simple. You don't do submissions. You don't do all that stuff because they're not listening. What you do is you visit their offices. You ring them up. You phone them. You find out their home numbers if you have to. They can always shut you up. You email them. You Twitter and twatter and annoy them to death. You Facebook them. You reach them and you keep reaching them and you keep on reaching them till they are so sick of you that they either do what we ask, because we are the people, we pay them. We elected them, didn't we? I didn't elect these ones. No, I didn't. But I also didn't elect the Labour ones who are saying the same thing. Intervention? No, not in my name. Not yesterday. Not today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. It's really important, isn't it? So far, John Keyes said that we would follow the United Nations, which is acceptable. But dear old Kevin Rudd over in Australia, what's he done? He said, oh yeah, we'll follow Obama. And of course, most of the people, most of his constituents probably wouldn't agree with him, so he's hung himself for the next election. Interesting. Now I'd like to introduce, talking of elections, Penny Bright, who is a mayoral candidate for Auckland, and she has been an absolutely tireless campaign against corruption. It's very important to have people out there doing this work, and we need to support them. So congratulations, Penny, and thank you for coming along. The will of the people is the basis of the authority of government. So, how come locally, nationally and internationally the corporate 1% operate according to the golden rule? Those who have the gold make the rules.
You're going to hold the mic just a little bit further away from your face, just right there.
Having attended 2 international anti-corruption conferences,
A little bit further away.
doing my homework as an investigative activist, what I have found is that the root cause of corruption is privatisation. the contracting. How is it decided who gets the contracts? I've been opposed to the super city from day one. 3 years ago when I stood as a mayoral candidate, I tried to explain, I blew the whistle till my eyeballs bled, as it were, trying to explain that the super city was never about making things better for the public majority of citizens and ratepayers. It was all about running the Auckland region like a business, by business, for business. And the reality is that 3 years on, I've got a whole stack of facts and information based on research which proves that. Auckland is run by an unholy alliance of the New Zealand Property Council and the Committee for Auckland. And if I do nothing else in this mayoral campaign, I have potted the Committee for Auckland. In my 150 words, which is going to go out to over 1 million voters, I've said, who really runs Auckland? Try Googling committeeforauckland.co.nz/membership. Any of you people, you want to blow your minds, read it for yourself, because nobody else is telling you the truth about this. It's like a herd of mammoth elephants in the room. Who is the Committee for Auckland? They are effectively the New Zealand Business Roundtable on steroids. They are CEOs of private business, they are CEOs of tertiary institutions, district health boards, corporate Māori and corporate charity. $10,000 a year membership fee, invitation only. And who is on the Committee for Auckland? The CEO of Auckland Council, Doug Mackay. How does that work? He is supposed to be an apolitical public servant. Oh, he's also a director of the BNZ. Let me tell you something that I've discovered. The Rogernomics myth and mantra, public is bad, private is good. Yeah, let's have a little review of that after 30 years, shall we? Anyone here today, if your rates have gone down, put your hands up. That's it. Do your own cost-benefit analysis. Game, set, match. That's it. Because if all this contracting out was so efficient and so effective, wouldn't you think your rates would be going down? Well, how it works is this. The mechanism for this corrupt corporate control of the Auckland region is through the CCOs, cash cow organisations, corporate controlled organisations, where unelected business people run the Auckland region, like I said, like a business, by business, for business. The big issue here is how many contracts have gone to member companies for the Committee for Auckland. I and others have asked. The books are not open. We do not know where exactly our rates are being spent. We do not know the devilish detail, the names of the consultants or contractors, the scope, the term or the value of these contracts, which is why I have refused to pay rates for the last 5 years. On my forehead you will not see the word sheep. And as far as I'm concerned, if the books are not open and I do not know exactly where my rates monies are being spent, I'm not going to give you any. I call it the 2-year-old tactic. Nah. This is how I'm going to fix it. Her worship, when I'm in the mayoral office, the $5 million that the mayoral office gets to help implement the mayoral vision, and my vision is to stop corrupt corporate control, What I will be running from the Mayor's office is effectively the equivalent of an independent commission against corruption. I am going to hire a quality assurance expert to go through the books and make sure that there's proper systems in place for proper open, transparent and democratically accountable Auckland Council, because we don't have that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hire a small team, never mind the 6 spin doctors. I write my own stuff, I do my own research, I don't do spin. I will have a small team of independent, capable, forensic investigators who will go through the books with a fine-tooth comb, and every dollar of ratepayer money, we will find out where it is being spent, invested and borrowed. And there will be cost-benefit analyses done so that unless there is a case proven that the use of consultants or private contractors is a more cost-effective use of public money, then we are going to cut out the consultants, we are going to cut out the contractors, we are going to make sure that the public majority benefit from our public money, and that will free up hundreds of millions of dollars, because the footpaths are always going to need fixing, as are the roads, as are the waterworks. The trees are going to need trimming, the grass is going to need mowing. Why on earth have we got all these private piggies in the middle with their snouts firmly in our public trough, scoffing themselves stupid while your rates keep going up? It's not okay. So just to finish off, I believe that as far as the daft lunatic plan is concerned, why does all the growth have to come to Auckland? Who is benefiting apart from property developers, speculators and overseas investors? Why don't we have a national population, migration and employment strategy so we spread it around? Let's get rid of this market madness. Let's have some common sense planning that we, the majority, can benefit from. Give me a chance, get me in there, and I will clean it up.
The ones with plenty of money behind them that will be the ones that make the most noise, but it's not always the ones that know the most. Now, there's somebody who's been campaigning for a very long time here, Jon Eisen. He is the editor of Uncensored Magazine, and he has a nose for trouble. And so I'm going to turn the microphone now to Jon Eisen, and then after that to Katherine Smith, who's editor of the Natural Health magazine, and then we will be slowing things down. Guys, don't all please go, because I really would like you to hear the rest of the speeches. So thank you, Jon. Here we go. I'll stand back a bit.
You've got to stand about here, Jon.
Hi. Where do you want me to stand? Is this all right?
That's good.
Hi. About 8.5 years ago, having waited in New Zealand for 22 years or so for a decent alternative magazine, I decided, well, fuck it, I'm going to start it myself. So I did. I've been a journalist all my life. So I started Uncensored Magazine, which this is the magazine that I wanted to see on sale in this country for 22 years. And now it is, and we've been going 8.5 years, blowing stories that you'll never see in mainstream media. I hope if you haven't seen it, you'll have a look at it. That's my plug for the magazine. Stand back a little. Back. Get back more? You want me to get back more? You want me to? All right, I'm back more. A couple of things. I think one of the best stories we ever ran was detailing the fact that New Zealand is a corporation and it's not a democracy or a republic. We are owned, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or don't, go do your homework and I'll tell you where to go. This country is the possession of a corporation called Her Majesty the Queen in right of New Zealand. Get used to it. Every time, you know, this really nice lady named Peyton, oops, sorry about the feedback. This is a government is for slaves, Peter said. Free people govern themselves. She's right. We are a corporation. We are slaves. I mean, until we wake up to that fact and decide to opt out of this particular corporation. Go Google it yourself. Her Majesty the Queen in right of New Zealand is a corporation that is listed on the Securities and Exchange Commission website, and they are the rightful owners of this other corporation we call New Zealand. This, to me, came as a big surprise, having migrated here in 1985 and taken my citizenship. But I checked it out, and it's the fact. And I would like us to be a corporation, or even, a democracy, or even a republic, but we ain't. If you don't believe me, check it out yourself. So, by the way, is the United States. That's also a corporation. And the more I got into that, the more I saw who the hell was running this whole show. And who's running the show is the question that I have made a career of for the last 10 or 15 years, trying to find out who was running the show. Maybe that's not, maybe that's a dead-end thing, maybe not. I have a journalistic sense of trying to get to the truth here and trying to find out what the deal really is. And the deal really is, believe it or don't, that Her Majesty the Queen in right of New Zealand and the Federal Reserve and all of our so-called elected representatives who do nothing of the sort to represent us, what they're really doing, including John Key, the lead bankster representative in this country. As you all know, he was an employee of Merrill Lynch and helped to orchestrate the decline and the actually collapse of our economy. But the fact of the matter is, I'm giving you facts as I understand it. If I'm wrong, please, by all means, correct me, write me a letter. I'll be happy to publish it. But the fact of the matter is that the whole shebang, almost every last central bank in the world now is owned by the Rothschilds. The Federal Reserve Bank of the United States is 51% or more owned by the Rothschild family and has been for 100 years. Obama is a Rothschild puppet. To say that doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic or pro-Semitic. I don't give a shit, okay? The fact of the matter is that they are running the show. And the fact of the matter is that we are not we are not necessarily a corporation. I mean, we are not only a corporation, we are in the hands of psychopaths, and we live in a psychopathocracy. That's the other part of the deal. Anywho, if you're worried about the onrush of fascism and you want to put all of these issues together that we've been listening to, it's real easy to coalesce them into an understandable, comprehensible unit of understanding. And this fascism is part of what people call the New World Order, which is the order that was decreed to be our future by our banking masters. One last thing, I'm sorry to say that we are no longer nuclear free. The people who have worked so hard for so long and did, like some, anticipate the dangers, the mortal dangers of nuclear power, were right. The Fukushima disaster, which is onrushing now and looks to be unstoppable, has made New Zealand no longer nuclear free. I'm really sorry to report that. However, There are remedial efforts that we can make to minimize our exposure and the effects of radiation. I strongly suggest that you have a look at Mark Sircus, S-I-R-C-U-S, and others who are talking about things like zeolite, vitamin C, and other antioxidants which can help us mitigate the effects of this radiation. And don't kid yourself, it's here. It hasn't stayed in the northern hemisphere, although it has contaminated much of the northern hemisphere. Zeolite, get into it, Google it, get some. It's mined here in Rotorua, and it is one of the most effective ways of mitigating radiation poisoning. We've run several stories on that in the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine, as well as Uncensored. You owe it to yourself and your children to see that you don't get poisoned, or if you are, get rid of that poison in your body. We had a friend, we warned this friend about going to Alaska. She came back to New Zealand with a hideous case of radiation poisoning, and she did a lot of zeolite, vitamin C, and other things, and now she's okay, thank God. But don't keep your head in the sand on this one. We are no longer nuclear free. I'm sorry to bring you that bad news, but there's always good news at the tail end. The tail end of this particular talk that I want to finish with right now is that although we are on the precipice of World War III right now, we have the power. And that power, I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious, but I do know that the power of prayer, when it is concerted, when it becomes a meditation, when it becomes focused, can move mountains. Now, in the last day, thank you very much. In the last day, we've seen what happened with the Brits. They chickened out. They said, no, thank you, we don't want any part of World War III. The Americans, well, they were going to do it anyhow until this morning. And this morning, Barack Obama, you know, Mr. Hope and Change, Barack Obama said, wait a second, hold on, I think we probably need to have the consent of the United States Congress. And that they don't come back from their holiday until September 9th. Well, we've got until September 9th to focus our thoughts, prayers, meditation, whatever you want to call it, but the laser light of our consciousness to stop this from happening in its tracks. This is the most important thing that I think we could do right now, and God, I hope all of us here will at least take a couple of minutes a day to focus that white light of protection around the world, and especially around Syria right now, because this thing could get out of hand if we don't. Thank you. Thank you very much. Elvis is now leaving the room.
Thank you, John. That's just so important that we focus positively. For our last speaker, we have Katherine Smith from the Natural Medicine magazine, and then we're going to have a song, a beautiful song written especially for the occasion, sung by Sasha Wittenhanna. And so if you could just stay for that, it would be really lovely as a really great conclusion. And you're really awesome for coming out, and really awesome for staying and hearing what our fantastic speakers have had to say. So Katherine, could you come? Thank you, Katherine Smith.
My battery's about to die in a second.
How are we going for sound? Am I okay? Not too much?
Yeah, this is good.
Jolly good. Well, I was told I'll have 3 minutes here, so that's what I'm going to do, no more, because everybody's been very patient. Most of you may know my face because I've been handing out these little pieces of paper advertising stopsmartmeters.org.nz. Now, essentially, in my opinion, this technology needs a mass consumer rejection. And I might be a familiar face because I've attended other protests on sort of different or maybe even not sort of semi-related issues, I've been handing out these leaflets. The reason it needs a mass consumer rejection is because you are talking about substituting the traditional electromechanical analog meters, which are much better in terms of health, with a new meter which uses radio frequency radiation to send data about your electricity use. Most of them work on the Vodafone GSM mobile network. Essentially it means if you've got one of these in your home, it's like having a cell phone that you cannot switch off. You have no control over it. It may be used as a neighbourhood hub for your community, in which case it will not be just transmitting as often as what the company claims it will be, but data could be coming in and out of that meter on huge numbers of occasions throughout the 24-hour period. And the reason in terms of health that I'm opposing these is manifold. There's a lot of information now that essentially says that the standards for exposure to microwave radiation in New Zealand are completely inadequate in terms of protecting human health. They will protect you from developing a thermal burn. But at lower levels of microwave radiation, there are still adverse health effects. And one of the ones that most concerns me is unpublished research by a German doctor who's now mostly resident in the USA, which looked at the microwave level in the sleeping environment of mothers who had given birth to autistic children, and compared it with the microwave level in the bedrooms of mothers whose children were developmentally normal. There was substantially higher microwave radiation in those bedrooms of the mothers who'd had children with autism and other neurodevelopmental problems. You know, this is something which potentially ruins the lifetime of a child. And there are a lot of people who've contacted me where their meters are on their bedroom wall, whether it's exterior or interior, it doesn't actually matter, because the microwave radiation will go right through the wall. So I would please encourage you to visit stopsmartmeters.org.nz and network the site around through your friends and family. If you've still got an analog meter, you're very, very lucky. If it's outside, make sure you put a lock on the cabinet and a sign saying you refuse a smart meter. Otherwise, you may come home to find it's been changed without notification. That has happened to some people that I know. If you've already had a smart meter installed and you didn't realise it was a health risk and you want to get rid of it, if you go to the site, we have information to help you negotiate with your electric company or change companies as necessary to either get it replaced with an analog meter, which is very difficult, or which is the best solution if you can achieve it, or to get the transmitting chip removed from that meter so that you at least stop it from producing that radio frequency radiation and essentially, you know, being a source of this non-ionizing damaging radiation in your own home. I might also add that it's not just about you. Neighbours, in fact people within several kilometres, some of these meters will transmit for several kilometres. So again, by getting rid of the microwave transmission trip for your own meter, if you have a smart meter, you are also helping everybody in your community, especially the next generation, and especially people who are already sensitised to electromagnetic radiation, for whom having a smart meter in close proximity can make their life literally a living hell. So I probably exceeded my 3 minutes, but thank you very much for your time and attention, and your help in publicising the site would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Catherine's another tireless worker. We've got some really great workers. We've just really all got to unite, because we can connect the dots, can't we? I mean, why do we get smart meters? So the electricity companies can make more profits because they don't have to pay meter people to come around and read your meter. Well, Meridian have been very kind. I wrote to them and said I don't want a smart meter, and I stuck a sign on my meter, and I haven't got one. So I was very pleased about that. You know. So if we stand up for what we want, then actually with a little bit of effort, it really works. So I'd like to finish on a really positive, wonderful note. Did you want to say something very briefly, Vinny? Because you said lots in the march.
Yeah.
And we're ready to go home.
Yes, okay, just
as long as it's positive, my dear.
Yes. Quick public service announcement. Can I ask how many people recognise me or who I am or what I do? Oh, there's quite a few of you. That's wonderful. Okay. For those of you who don't know, I'm Vinny Eastwood, Mr. News. I have the most subscribed YouTube channel for news in New Zealand at the moment. I outrank New Zealand Herald TV. You can search Vincent Eastwood on YouTube, and that will come up with my YouTube channel where you will be able to see the speakers and all of those wonderful people like yourselves, the protest march, and what have you. I work specifically on donations. So if anybody is capable of supporting me and what I do, you can go to the website, thevinnieeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question, and Eastwood as in go ahead, make my news. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, alternative media is so important, and I was just interviewed by somebody from Triangle TV, and Vinny works tirelessly, and we have Tim Lynch here somewhere from Green Planet FM. Where are you, Tim?
Tim.
I don't know where he's gone. But anyway, he has been one of the foremost organisers. He's hiding, is he? Oh, there he is, okay. And Tim's alternative media, Green Planet FM. Planet FM is a community radio station. There's lots of ways that we can ignore the main media if they ignore us. So, to finish on a more positive note, Sasha Wittenhanna has a beautiful piece for us.
thank you to all the people that have helped. It's been really wonderful. Lots of cooperation, no fights, all positive. Thank you so much, and thank you, Vinny, as well. And there's a shark finning petition that has been going around, and it is lost. If anyone has the shark finning petition, please give it to me or the lady with all the lovely badges. So hopefully
not the lady
it will
with the
turn
lovely raccoons.
No, badges. Thanks, everyone. Kia ora.
Good on you, love.
Thanks, Vinny.
All done, let's go.